Good morning, everyone. I'm Sharon Rose Vasness.
And I'm Lee Goldberg. Todd's here for us to look at the weather on this Thursday. Hello, sir.
Yeah, hey there, guys. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. On this Thursday, first thing that you're going to notice is the fog and how thick it is, and also the mist and drizzle. Kind of a little wet out there for the first time in a while. Check out the visibility map. There's fog just about everywhere in the two states, except way up in the mountains. Like Berlin, New Hampshire's got good visibility, and so does Caribou up north. So it's not thick everywhere, but if you're going to be hitting the road soon, you're probably going to have to, add a few minutes to your commute this morning. There are some widely scattered showers, a couple of them moving over the New Hampshire border and a couple more up through the Central Highlands and the Allagash. But check out to our west. Downpours, even some rumbles of thunder out there, and those are expected to move in later today. So this morning will be wet and kind of chilly. Our temps right now are in the 50s. They'll warm into the 60s as the air mass gets increasingly humid, so turning sticky this afternoon and a little uncomfortable. We'll also see the chance for a thunderstorm in places that get into the 70s, like over in New Hampshire. Some of those storms could have some gusty wind. But the good news is all these storms move out of here late tonight. We'll be clearing out, and we finish up the week with sunshine, and it'll turn really warm tomorrow. Fog and drizzle to start, 55. Muggy, perhaps a break of sun midday and early afternoon. And then there's another chance for a shower or storm this evening with high temperatures in the upper 60s. As I mentioned, tomorrow 80, but what about the weekend? I'll be back in a few minutes at 6:15 with the details.
Honor George and make the necessary changes that make law enforcement the solution and not the problem. Hold them accountable when they do something wrong. Teach them what it means to treat people with empathy and respect.
U.S. Department of Justice.
That was George Floyd's brother, Felonious, testifying in front of Congress, asking for police reform. That's what President Trump will address today when he travels to Dallas. The president plans to meet with law enforcement and African-American faith leaders. A senior White House official says it's possible Trump could also announce executive actions to address the issue of race and policing in the United States. Democrats already unveiled a proposal including bans on chokeholds and no-knock warrants and a national database to track police misconduct.
Now, in some places across the country, that change is already happening. Last week, school officials in Minneapolis voted unanimously to end an agreement with the police department to provide school resource officers. Here in Maine, school leaders in Portland are discussing a push to remove police officers from its high schools as well.
News Center Maine's Zach Blanchard reports on the effort to defund the police and use that money to better support students of color.
This is a big deal.
Police is not the only way to accomplish safety.
Two moms, one mission.
This is just the first step.
To remove school resource officers from Portland high schools. Erica King and Victoria Parker, brought together by their son's friendship, created this petition, now signed by nearly 1,000 people.
This isn't about me and my kids. This is about a large coalition of over 850 people.
The reality is there is a large group of children who, when they see a police officer with a gun, they feel triggered, they feel trauma, and it doesn't provide a safe place.
It comes as the Black Lives Matter movement is intensifying in Maine and across the country. Through a partnership with the police department that started in 2015, there's an officer at Deering High School and Portland High School. But they're not paid for by the department. They're paid by the schools. Advocates want that nearly $130,000 to instead be used to hire social workers and better support minority students and students of color.
The danger is that ordinary student misbehavior turns into a criminal matter. Rather than being handled within the confines of the school, it gets handled by the criminal legal system.
But not everyone agrees.
Our job isn't to go in there and arrest students.
Jeff Upton, president of the newly formed Maine School Resource Officers Association, says he and others can be an integral part of change.
The concerns that the community has, school resource officers are the officers that are on the front lines of the community. They're the ones that are out there building relationships with community members, with the youth, and the youth are really what's going to drive where we head into the future.
For hundreds of parents and students in Portland, that future is now in their hands.
It's more than frustration, it's an urgency and a sense of fairness and justice for all of our students.
Zach Blanchard with that report, and we're asking you this morning, do you think school resource officers are necessary? You can weigh in at pulse.newscentermaine.com or using the Pulse tab of our mobile app. We will continue to check the results throughout the morning. So far, 84% of you saying yes, you do think they should be in the schools.
All right, here's your morning rush in 90 seconds or less, and we're going to focus on a few of the cultural changes that have happened since the recent protests nationwide. First, NASCAR banning the Confederate flag from all of its events and properties. It said that the Confederate flag goes against its goal of a welcoming environment. Now, 5 years ago, the then chairman of NASCAR tried to ban Confederate flags at racetracks, but the proposal angered NASCAR's core fan base. There are no new efforts to remove Confederate statues from the U.S. Capitol.
Individuals who are being honored by those statues, in effect, fought to keep people enslaved. I don't think that's something that we ought to honor in America.
I should say there are now efforts, not no. Right now, there are about 10 Confederate statues on the Capitol grounds. A congresswoman from California has introduced legislation to have the feds remove all Confederate statues within 4 months, regardless of what any state might decide. The movie Gone with the Wind is temporarily gone from streaming on HBO Max. The film is set in Georgia during the Civil War. It's been criticized for romanticizing slavery. HBO says the film will return, quote, with a discussion of its historical context and a denouncement of those very depictions. Merriam-Webster is revising its definition of racism. This comes after a woman from Missouri emailed the dictionary. She said the definition was too simple and fell short of including the systemic oppression of certain groups of people. The dictionary's editor-at-large says the definition will be rewritten more clearly in the next edition. That is your Morning Rush. For more on these stories and more, check out our website or head to our mobile app.
One of Maine's banks has just been named one of the best in the whole world. We'll let you know which one it is coming up. First, though, Todd, one thing we need to know about today's weather?
That's pretty cool to hear. All right, let's see. The one thing, I think, the dew points and how muggy it's going to feel later on today. At the moment, dew points are in the 50s. As you can see, that's still pretty comfortable. But check out the trend today, climbing into the mid and maybe even upper 60s, which is uncomfortable later on. So we've got some storms in the forecast too with this air mass. I'll be back in a few minutes. We'll discuss.